Thank you, everybody, for joining me today for this online workshop, the 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. Thank you for joining me and also taking the time out of your day to learn more about grant writing, what grants are all about, and how they can help your business to grow and expand and implement that strategy plan that you've hopefully got sorted. So let's make a start. Now, how many of you here today are small business owners? So if you can pop up your hand if you are. I know a couple of you are. And who is already too busy? Some of you have already said that your businesses are growing and you want to learn more about grants and how they can help you. So yeah, we're already too busy. And who feels like they wear all the hats in the business? Put your hand up as well if that is you. A few hands have gone up, so don't be shy there. So I always start this with saying that, we know business owners, as we all are, all committee members are always too busy. It's always a million things to do. And when it comes to grants, they're often not ready and we don't know what's required for those grant applications. The other problem is grant programs, when they do come out, have really short application periods to apply, which can be as short as 4 weeks, which, when you think of it, when you're already busy, already trying to do everything and go from, doing grant application is just that extra thing that never gets done. And as we've already alluded to, resources and time are scarce and limited. We're already wearing all the hats. So how can we make this work? How much free money are you missing out on grant opportunities? Now, this might be a bit of a tricky question to answer because we don't know what we don't know. And if we're not looking for grants, then we don't know what we're missing out on. But I think we all know that we're probably missing out on some funds because we're not doing the research to find those grants, or we don't know where to look for them. It can feel really hard to put that grant application in, and also just seems really overwhelming when you're already trying to do so much in your business. So hi, I'm Liz Fleming, the Efficiency Coach. I'm a business coach and grant writer for small business. What I'm obsessed with is making sure your business or organization has the best opportunity to be successful. You know how there's never enough hours in the day to get that grant application written or that project plan, and it's just something that never gets done. And it just seems way too stressful. Well, what I do is help you and your business to be grant ready so that when a grant program is released, you've got the tools and information at your fingertips to be able to present your business in the best possible way. Now, I've got a bit of a geeky admission to make to start off with. I love writing grant applications. So I've been in small business for 2 years now, helping a number of clients get grant and writing the applications, getting them ready, doing their project plans. And this comes from my experience in corporate, but also in working in government. So when I had a couple of years in government here in Australia, I oversaw some grant programs. I was a finance manager, and it just opened my eyes to the opportunities that are out there for small business and community organisations. I didn't even know this world existed. And so now I'm here today to show you that this world does exist. It's what I call a hidden economy. People just don't know that it's another funding source for your business organisation, and then they don't know how to get there as well. So to date, I've got an 85% success rate in writing grant applications. And to date for this calendar year of 2022, it's 100%. So every grant application that I have submitted, that we've had the outcome received, it's been 100% accepted. So I'm pretty proud of that. I've worked hard for that with my clients, but it's also knowing the ins and outs of how to write grant applications and to know what they are looking for. The other reason why I have quite a high success rate is I'm really upfront about your project and your eligibility for each grant and how we can work together to make your project either fit the criteria or mold around the edges to make it more applicable, because grant programs are really competitive. We don't know, we never know how much is available. We never know who else is going to apply. So we've got to put our best foot forward and make sure that our project is as strong as anything. We've also got to assume that the panelists that are assessing these grants and giving out the funds, they know nothing about us. So we've got to make sure that we get that across in our application. So I like to think of grant applications as a resume where you're putting your best attributes forward, and then treating it a bit like an exam where we do all the preparation, we submit it, and then we've got to forget about it and wait for those results to come through, and then hopefully go forth with our project that will grow our business. So as I've said, grant applications really are my thing, and I do love working with clients to create those grant applications, and I treat them like writing a business plan. It's my opportunity to learn more about your business, to extract that information about your business and your project from you, because at the end of the day, you know the best, you know your business best, and it's my job to extract that out of you and make sure that we can put that information into the application so that we're successful. So, you know, we all like to think of our specializations. So allow me to work within my zone of genius, and you can continue to work on yours, and we can create less stress as a result. So I also will say in here, I'm a chartered accountant. So, you know, when it comes to grant applications, we're asking for funding, we're asking for money. So we need to do budgets, we need to work out what we're even applying for. It amazes me how many people come to me, referred to me, that say, oh, I want a grant. And I'm like, okay, what's your project? Or what do you need funding for? Or what could you spend money on? And so many times they say, oh, I don't know. I just want some money. So we've got to know what our projects are. We've got to know what our growth strategy is. And we've got to have those plans in place so that we're ready when a grant program does come out. And as we like to say, nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. How many grants have you seen that you may have been eligible for, but you didn't have time to do the research, you didn't have time to look into it properly, you didn't have a project plan, you didn't have something that they were asking for, you ran out of time, you were too busy. It happens all the time. I've had clients ring up the night before a grant is due to ask them to help me to help them. And unfortunately, I just haven't, you know, these take time. So we've got to make sure that we're ready, we're planned, and we know what we're doing so that when these opportunities come up, we're ready to go. So I'm going to take you through my 7 steps to how I write successful grant applications. This is my proven process that I use with my clients, and my guarantee to you at the end of today is that you'll have 7 clear steps to follow when writing your grant applications. And this is the exact process that I follow as well. And I'll also just add in here, a few of you have reached out saying, hey Liz, I'd really love for you to help me go more in depth with learning about grants, or how do we get into the membership and how do we work together? So later on during the webinar, there will be an opportunity. I will take you through the ways you can work with me so that your business can be ready to go for grants and we can get some of this money for you to grow your business. So just wanted to add that in as well. So back to it, 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. Let's start with the first one. Now, success, we all want it. We all need it, but do we really know what it means to us? And this comes down to each business having a different, what success means for them is different. So that might mean growing in a certain way, having more staff, getting more equipment in to be more efficient. But really understanding what success means to you is really going to help you through this process. So when it comes to grant writing, we need to make sure we're collating all the information. So normally a grant program is released. As I said, it's normally only open for 4 to 5 weeks. So we need to be onto it. So we need to make sure we gather the guidelines, the blank application form. There might be a webinar or workshop that they invite you to give an overview or a chance for you to ask questions. They might also give you some information about past projects and organizations that have been successful for this particular grant. And they may also give some examples of the types of projects that they want to see within this grant program. So getting all the information, collating all of that is number one. I normally print it out because it becomes a good reference point. So we need to make sure we're reading the criteria and checking our eligibility. So there's two things here. We need to make sure our organisation is eligible. So quite often we'll have a size, a limit, might look at number of employees. It might not have any limits at all. You might have to be in a certain geographic area and it might have to be in a certain industry. So those are the types of things that we're checking for eligibility first. And then also making sure that the criteria for the actual project. So sometimes there's dollar amounts, sometimes there's limits, sometimes there's minimums, sometimes there's matchings. It all depends, but we need to make sure we fully understand that right from the beginning. And when I work with clients and we're at that very initial stage of we've matched them with the grant and they've come to us and said, hey, look, we want to proceed with this. This is exactly what we go through. We determine, are you actually eligible? Is your project eligible? Is it going to fit what they're trying to achieve? So grant programs come out because government agencies or governments want to fund people or organizations to do jobs for them. So there's got to be some outcome, there's got to be some benefit, and quite often those outcomes and objectives are outlined or will be outlined in the criteria. So we've got to make sure that our project and what we plan to do aligns with that in the very first instance. And that's where, if I don't feel like it's a strong enough project, we'll work together to improve your project, might have to collaborate with other people or something so that it can fit that criteria and have a strong presence and good chance of being successful. Now, at this point, this is where we draft the outline. I quite often turn the application form and all the questions that we have to answer into a Word document. So it's a blank Word document, and that's our working document. Now that all the grant portals are online and you've got to create a login and that's how you submit it, we don't want to be typing straight into that. If we use the Word document, one, we can share it between, I can share it between my team and my staff and my clients, but also so that at the very end, once we're all sorted, we can just copy and paste it and we don't lose any information and data. I've had people type stuff in and then their computer's crashed or it hasn't saved or it's logged out or timed out and they've just lost their whole work. So creating the Word document right from the start is key to this. Step two. So this is where we're planning what we're going to do. So in conjunction with the Word document, we also have a numbered checklist of all the components required. So if I'm writing the grant application for you, this is what I do. This is so that we can then allocate who's going to do what, who's responsible for what, and when it is due. So everything's going to work back from the deadline, and we're going to set targets in between that time. You know, if we've only got 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do it, it's pretty tight. So this is really, really important. Working out who's going to be involved in this. So you might have internal people that can write it. You might have, you might be working with me or another grant writer, but making sure you know who needs to be there in terms of who's got the information around the project and who's going to have the capacity to actually write it as well. Now, it doesn't have to be me, but I do encourage you to make sure that you engage with someone who has experience in writing grants. It is quite a skill. It can be quite a stressful time in writing it. There are certain things that we know as grant writers that they're going to ask for and things not to ask, not to include and things like that. But I just, encourage you to work with someone, either it be a grant writer or someone that's written grants and been successful, that knows what they're doing. It'll be much easier and less stressful for everybody in the long run. And this is where this investment in a grant writer, I always say to my clients, we're not just writing a grant application. This is like a mini business plan where you're then creating this document and this resource for your business that you can add to your website. You can make other decisions. Quite often, some of the questions that come in the grant applications, no one's ever sat down and written their achievements for the last couple of years. Yet they've got to write them in there. So it also becomes a really reflective process in doing this as well. And, we're applying for funding at the same time. And when you're planning this out, again, we need to be mindful of when it's due, that submission date, and planning out to submit 1 or 2 days before the deadline. We don't want to be trying to type it all in or copying and pasting at 11 o'clock at night when it closes at 11:59, because nobody is going to be online to help you. They're not going to accept an email. It's got to be in that portal. So, we need to give us some time. And also, we don't want to have delays and stress right up to that last minute. I've seen it where people's computers have crashed and they've just not been able to submit it. So, it's a waste of work just for such a small thing. So when you're working out your work plan, and I always do this with my clients, we plan for a couple of days buffer. We don't really want to, if we can help it, submit on the last day, because that's when the big rush is. We want to get before that, so that, some assessments, they just go first and, and that's how they assess it in that order. So we want to be in the running, and don't want to be the last one submitting it 2 minutes to the deadline. Now, the next step is all related to, just like any other project we do in our business, we turn the grant application into its own project. So it needs to have the importance, it needs to have the dedication. We need to make sure that there is capacity of the staff members to work with whoever is leading this process to write that grant application. Because, if you're applying for a $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 grant, that can make a massive difference to your business. So you need to invest that time and resources into actually making that application as best you can, so that you can have the best chance of being successful. Now, this has got to be quite detailed as well, because this is actually the crux of your project. What are you applying for funding for? And as I've already said, some people just want money and don't really necessarily know what they're going to spend it on. But this is where you need to align it with the criteria in the grant program. So how long is your project going to go for? What are all the costs involved? Who's going to do what? How is it going to happen? And working out your budget. At the end of the day, if we don't have a budget, we're not asking for funding, and it's not a grant application. There is always going to be money involved when we're applying for grant applications. So this point is really, really important. If you don't know what the costs are involved, especially if there's minimum or maximums in the grant program. So some might say you can only apply for up to $50,000. Well, what if the project you're proposing is $100,000? That means you've got to find the difference of that $50,000 yourself if you were to proceed with the project. Or do you need to scale back the project down to be less than $50,000 so that you can be eligible for this particular grant application? So that's what we're talking about here. But treating it like its own project in itself is really, really important. Now, step 4 is all related to what information do we need to provide for the grant application. Now, this varies per grant application, and this is where it is a real skill to be able to decipher what they're asking for. And like any test or exam, make sure you answer the question they are asking, not answering the question that you think that they are asking. I have seen time and time again clients that have bought a grant application to me and wondered why they were unsuccessful, and we've gone through that process, and they just simply haven't answered the question that was asked, and they haven't gone back to the basics. We all need to remember, we know our business inside out. We've created it from scratch. Everything's just intuitive to us, but you've got to remember the people assessing these grant applications know nothing about you, nothing about your project, and you need to go back to basics, back to simplicity, and being as simple as, this project is to purchase equipment of XYZ that will improve my business because of ABC. And the amount of times I see that one sentence left out is phenomenal, because you've already thought, oh yeah, that's what, it's obvious. That's I've done my project title. That's what I've called it. They're going to know that. We need to repeat and repeat and repeat so that they go, hey, this project is awesome. It's going to be really successful. And I need to, we can just go from there, but we need to make sure we go back to simplicity and making sure we assume they know nothing. So we need to keep that in mind when we are doing this. And making sure you're looking at what they are asking for and what they're not asking for. Some grant programs will say, please attach each of these documents. Some will say you can attach up to 8 supporting documents, pick whatever you like. And then others will say, please make sure you only send us what we've asked for, because everything extra will be disregarded. So we don't want a black mark on our page before they've even started assessing. So it is really important. And that comes back to the number checklist of what are the things we really need to collect. Just like if we don't have everything, we won't even be able to submit it. Letters of support is something that I find some people aren't aware of. Some grant programs ask for them specifically, some don't, but I always make it a rule that if it's appropriate, a letter of support always goes with every grant application that I write. What do I mean by letter of support? Letter of support is from another organization or community group or person that is going to benefit from your project. So it might be another service provider. It might be someone that you're partnering with for this project. It might be a collaborator. It might be someone further down the stream of, okay, if you increase your capability in your business, it's going to have a flow-on effect to their business in the same community or the same area or whatever it might be. And what I do there with my clients is we draft those letters of support, send them to those people in the Word document. They pop on their letterhead and sign it and send it back to us. So again, we're making it really easy for them to help us out, and they feel really strongly when they're attached to a grant application, because it shows that it's not just your organization that's being impacted, that you've really thought about this, you've built those other relationships, and it just makes for a stronger application. So thinking about, if you're doing your project, when you're planning it out, who's involved, who can you get support from, who is it benefiting, and things like that. Now, getting quotes, most grant applications require you to attach quotes. And when we're doing our planning, I always make sure we need to go out to at least 2 or 3 suppliers for each cost or each component, because they might not get back to you, and making sure you're giving them deadlines. But this is also what's really important, to making sure that you've already got those relationships so that you can ring them up and say, hey, you know that project we were talking about, can you send me a quote? No one likes doing quotes and they don't like being rushed, but we've got a really tight time frame. So this is where I stress about the being grants ready, knowing how you're going to do that project, knowing who needs to be involved, and giving them the heads up as early as you can, or even getting the quote even when there isn't a grant, so that when the grant does come up, you can just say, hey, can you just revise that quote, rather than having to redo it. So start thinking about that. Who would you need to get quotes from? What's their turnaround? What's involved for them to do a quote, and things like that. Financial reports. I know here in Australia, if a grant is more than $50,000, you normally have to send in your financial statements, and they'll always want the latest financial statements. So it's October 2022 right now. Any grant that I've seen at the moment, they're requiring 30 June 22 financial statements. And so this is, again, really important that you've got your financials up to date. Lucky for you, I'm a chartered accountant. If you've got Xero, we can download those reports and I can sign them off for you as an accountant, but they still need to be up to date. So that's just one thing to consider there as well. And at this point, this is about getting shit done. What do we really need to do? How do we do it? Who do we need to involve? Who do we need to chat to make sure that we're completing all the information that we've got at hand for our application? Those quotes, letters of support, again, sending out multiple letters of support, knowing that not all are going to come back, but as long as you've got 2 or 3, depending on your project, that's really great. Quotes, again, going out to 2 suppliers and then picking what one you can put in. And financial reports, can't stress that enough, that anyone running a business, if your financial statements or your Xero is not up to date, you're potentially in real trouble. So make sure you get that up to date as much as possible. Now, a lot of people are always surprised that we've got to step 5 and we're only just starting to write the application now. So you can see that there is a lot of work done before we're writing it. And absolutely before this point, we're scribbling notes, we're thinking about it, we might have half drafted some answers or some brainstorming and how we're going to answer those questions. But once we've collated it all, and I do this with my clients, I don't start writing until I've got the quotes, because that can determine the budget for starters and whether we're within the realm of the grant application or the program. As I said, if we've got a project that's budgeted for 100,000, we can only apply for 20. And if we haven't got the 80,000 at our disposal or capacity to get in the funding, then we also need to make the decision whether we're still going to proceed to apply. And all those kind of decisions as well. But the budget and those quotes determine what I need to write about when I'm answering the questions as well, and making sure that all those components are included in our answers and the story is the same. So this is where we go back to our guidelines and we look at the key criteria that need to be addressed and how are we going to answer them. And it's also important here to look at the assessment weightings. So what I mean by this is we don't know who the panel is, but they will give out what questions are key to be answered and the weighting. So one question might be worth 30%, another one might be worth 20%. So we just need to make sure we answer them appropriately so that we get maximum marks and get that successful approval at the end. Really important to check the word or character limit. So when I'm drafting my blank Word document at the start, each question will have a word or character limit normally. I just pop in brackets what the word count is. Sometimes some questions will only have 100 words. Sometimes you might get 5,000 characters. Now that they're using grant portals, when you're copying and pasting from your Word document into the portal, it'll cut off the extra words. So if you're in your Word document, you can easily highlight that section, check the word count and know where you're at. And then when you're copying across, and if there's 200 words limit, I will write 199 words. So we need to maximize and use it all as best we can. Again, using that simple language, including the key facts and making sure that we are presenting our project in the best possible way. So just a few things like that, and I've seen it cut off, and then you've got to go back, especially if you're trying to rush right at the end. The word limits, I will say, when you're brainstorming and before you get to the first draft of writing, put all the information down. So I gather as much information as I can from the clients. So even if one question is only 100 words, I'll brainstorm as much as I can and go, right, what's all the possible answers and the ways to answer that particular question, and then break it down into the 100 words to make sure that we've captured all the important stuff within that really short word limit. Some of the word limits, there is just no rhyme or reason. Some don't have them. So then that's probably harder sometimes because you've got to work out, well, how much are they asking for? But it's just something to note there that if there is a word limit and there's normally a grants portal and you're copying and pasting, it'll chop it off mid-sentence. It's pretty clever now. So super important. Now, so we've written it and we've got that first draft. And that's the real basics of the project. What are we trying to do? What are we asking for? Why are we doing this? All that kind of stuff. And now step 6 is all about adding our why and our story. Basically trying to write in a persuasive way to the panelists who know nothing about us, know nothing about our project, to say, hey, look, give it to us. We're the best out of all of this. And the hard thing is we don't know who else has applied. So you've got to really look internally here and make sure that you're writing in that persuasive way. And that's where I find it that clients appreciate it when I'm writing it for them, because they're too scared to write it, or they don't want to, pump up their own tires. And when you've got that external, fresh perspective, I'm like, no, we need to put that in there. And they have greater confidence and feel better about putting it in there. Making sure we're including why the project is the best, with the best impact, most impact, and linking it back to the objectives of the outcome and the outcomes that are supposed to be achieved through this grant program. So remember, the government wants some outcomes. They want to be able to, at the end of it, say, hey, we gave this organisation $50,000. Hey, let's put you in the paper. Let's put you on our website. Let's go and congratulate you, have our opening ceremony. They want that PR as well, because they also want to be able to say, hey, we've done all these great projects with our budget. And then they're going to their next government saying, hey, can we have some more money to do this again? So, think about the whole process of it. Think about why it's being done. It's always for a benefit. It has to be, because they also want that return on investment. They want to be able to say, hey, look at all these things that happened when we gave these other organizations money and we were part of it. Even though they've literally handed you the money, made you sign a few things and not much else, you've done all the hard work, but they like to take those accolades as well. So keep that in mind. and making sure that you include the expected benefits to the targeted audience. So this is where it's really important to make sure that your project aligns with that those guidelines right from the very start. Because if you're talking about benefits to the community or other organizations or whatever it might be, but they're not the targeted audience for this grant program, you're going to get a black mark. So again, linking it back to those reading the guidelines and the criteria, and making sure that you fit that in every single way that you can for this particular project. The panelists will be trying to find any tiny little thing to scrap your project. Most grant programs are oversubscribed, meaning that there's more applicants than funds available. So, you know, I've heard of grants being rejected because they didn't have the right entity structure. And I've heard where they have not attached one document and things like that, and they've just missed out. There is no opportunity to resubmit. They don't even bother. They just go, yeah, well, we'll have enough applications to be able to allocate the funds, because that's all they care about. And so do not give them any chance to go, actually, you know, that's one mistake, sorry, you're out. And I've seen it more often than not. People are like, oh, why didn't I get this? And it's literally a technicality. So let's not miss out on a technicality. And that's where having that fresh eyes, I take the lead on the grant writing and making sure that we've got all that, adding all the documents. Some portals now won't let you submit unless you have the right documents as well. So, you know, it's becoming a little bit less foolproof, but, you know, there's always the worry, like, oh, did I attach the right document? And I even print it all out before I submit it to make sure that I've saved it right. I've got the latest budget and all that kind of stuff with version control as well. So these are all the wee things that can really trip us up, even if you've got a really cool project. So that brings us to the last step, where we're reviewing and we're submitting. So I always get my clients to review it and read through that application. So one, I'm getting them to check factually that the information that I've presented is, you know, at the end of the day, that's their name going on that application, not mine. So they need to make sure that the information is factually correct. What they've agreed to do in the future is also correct and that they're happy with. Also checking for grammar, does it make sense? Have I missed any words out? And all that kind of stuff. So that's really important. And same with the attaching the documents and things like that. So when sometimes I attach it all to the portal and get the client to directly log into the portal and check that it's all there, and then they can press submit. Some of them get me to press submit because they're too nervous. Even I get nervous pressing submit, even though it's not directly mine. So that's normal, but just making sure that you've gone through this whole process of, you know, once you press submit, there's no going back, and you can't ring them and say, oh, I forgot this document. They just won't care. They won't care. They'll just be like tough cookies. So that's where it is really important to go back to your checklist. Have you got it all in there? Have you got the right quote? Does the budget line up with what you're talking about? Have you the total project amount in the words and the answers is the same as in the budget and the portal? All of that matching off as well. And so that's why I always get one or two people to read through it before I submit. So pressing submit, as I've said, do not wait till 11:50 when it's due at 11:59. Try and do it in business hours. Try and do it a couple of days before if you're that organized. But that's what we're aiming for. You know, things do come up, but if you've done the right thing and planned it properly with getting a couple of quotes, hopefully you've got one quote. Most grant programs, if you provide a quote from one supplier, you're not necessarily wedded to that supplier when you're successful. So if things change, you can make changes. So basically you just need to have some kind of quote that's for what you need. And then when you're successful, because there will be a bit of a time lag, you can then reassess, well, are you going to go with that supplier or another one, or something might have changed or whatever. So just remember that as well. And it's really important to celebrate. It's always a big piece of work. On top of everything else you're doing in the business, or if you're a community organization, you know, you're doing this on top of your jobs and all that sort of stuff. So celebrate the process, you know, and it's like a test or exam. Once you've submitted it, all you can do is sit and wait. You can't worry about it. You can't change the outcome. And then just hopefully we're successful with the grant. And reflecting on the process as well. I have some people do one grant application and go, oh, that was really easy with your guidance. How have we done it so wrong? Or now they better understand why they might not have been successful in the past as well. So really reflecting on that process, what information that's come out of that grant application process can be used in other areas of your business. So are there certain words and phrases and explanations that we had to do for the grant application could be used on your website or part of your products, or are there other opportunities we can seek out for other funding for that same project as well? So people start then thinking, oh, what are the opportunities? Where can I create this? How can I do this? And that's what I love about it as well. It's not just the end of, apply for it and go. I've got clients that I've written one grant application for them, then they've gone on their own and applied for heaps of other grants because they've used it as a base. So it always gets easier. I've got clients now that I can write the grant application for them before they even knew about the grant, send them the draft, and then we've submitted it, kind of thing as well. So once I learn more about your business, it's much easier for me to write them as well, and you don't even have to worry about it. It's just few key bits of information, maybe one session, and then we go from there. So, all of this effort compounds. And if you're aware of where grants can be for your business and what kind of areas, then again, you start searching for them and looking for them as well. So there we have it. There is my 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. If you can pop in the chat, what was your biggest learning or takeaway from what I've shared with you so far? I'd love to see what you thought, and what was a couple of things that you might not have known, forgot about, slightly different to the way that you currently write them. Being prepared well in advance, yes, Trish, that is that's really important, and I think that can mean different things to different businesses, but I think knowing what you're going to apply for, knowing what's involved to create that project plan, knowing who your suppliers are going to be, or whether it's staff or whatever it might be, makes it way easier. And it makes it way easier for me to write it as well. Because we don't want to be, if a grant comes out and it's only a 4-week period, trying to develop a project plan and the grant application at the same time. Yes, it can be done, but that is quite stressful. Step 3 in involving clients a lot more. Absolutely. So we need to think about who else can be involved in this project. That might be a supplier, might be a collaborator. Some grants I've seen lately require collaboration as one of their criteria. So it's about who in your organization can you be thinking about, well, who can I work with? Who's got some skills, or they might be just absolutely the same as you, but let's, pull our resources together and make one grant application and spread the load, and all those kind of opportunities as well, which can be really cool. Being prepared, knowing your business and sharing a story. Absolutely. If you've got all that ready to go, some people already have that on their website, some people don't. So it's really important to know where you're going to extract that information from, and if you've got to start from scratch. So starting to think about, well, what is your story? What are your outcomes? And, yes, we can tailor some of our projects to some of the grant criteria, but we don't want to be fundamentally changing our business strategy or our business values just to get some money, because that's not very authentic and genuine. So we just need to think about that as well. But also, if a grant comes out and it's something that you're like, oh, I'd kind of thought about that, or not really, by all means, create a project, that's fine. Just make sure that you've got the resources to do it in the time frame to make that submission, because you don't want to do a whole lot of work, get to the last week and go, oh my God, we've just bitten off way more than we can chew. And then we've wasted all that time. So that does come down to the planning. Who's going to do what is involved, working backwards from the deadline, and go from there. The supporting documents, some people forget about that. They go, oh, I can write it all. The supporting documents, the big thing to remember there is you can't create them yourself. You need to get quotes from external suppliers, and the letters of support. Obviously, you need them to sign it as well. So my client who rang 24 hours before a grant was due, that required letters of support, external quotes. And I just said, look, there's no way you're going to get that done. There's been other grants where it has just been 4 questions, They haven't asked for quotes, and we've absolutely done that in 24 hours. And recently I did a grant over a 36-hour period where the guy had the quote. We did a couple of sessions, extracted all the information, and we got that grant application written and submitted as well, because he already had the quote ready to go. So that was, it can be done. It just comes down to the planning and making sure that everyone's on the same page of who's doing what, and then working quickly to get it done. So thank you for sharing those takeaways. It's good that, you know, everyone's coming in from a different stance. You may have written grants before, you may not have. And yeah, the number one thing is that people are like, oh, it's not till step 5 that I start writing it. Most people say, I read the guidelines and I just start writing and then I get stuck. So, you know, stepping back, planning it all out makes a big difference. So here are some businesses that I've helped with successful grant applications lately, and there's many more. And my average grant that comes through is at the moment about $25,000. So think about what a $25,000 cash injection for a certain project in your business, what difference would that make to you and your business and your clients and your customers that you serve as well? So what's the difference between these businesses receiving grants in your business? Probably not much. It's probably just that they knew about the grants, knew where to look, or that they were clients of mine, so I showed them where the grant was and then wrote it for them. But, you know, anyone can apply for a grant. An organisation, community organisation, a for-profit, not-for-profit business. And if it's there and you fit the criteria, let's damn well apply for it. That's my attitude towards it. Take these opportunities, and don't let us say, oh, I've run out of time, or oh, I don't have that particular, you know, risk management plan, strategy plan. We can be ready. We can be up for anything. Here's a couple of clients. Chris got a $25,000 grant for his cool room and his farm shop, creating greater efficiency. So it was saving him time and looking much more professional when his customers came in as well. So that was pretty exciting. Ben and Jesse, they turned their side hustle into a full-time business years before they would ever have done it on their own. So again, really, really exciting to help them. And these are just two of many, many clients that I've helped with successful grant applications. I've done applications for events, I've done grant applications for farm equipment, I've done them for vehicles, I've done them for a recycling plant, and many, many more. It doesn't matter what you're applying for or what your business is, the process is the same. It's just about me understanding and extracting that information from you to be able to answer the questions in the grant applications. So now I'm just going to show you how I can help you and your business to grow and expand with business grants. So when it comes to grants, it's all about growth. We're going to invest in something that's going to either make our business more efficient, increase our productivity, increase our production, do something different, hire staff so we can grow, and things like that. So that's why I always say we need to be thinking about how we're going to grow, what's in our strategy, and what's the best way to do that. So these recent business grants in Australia shows that there's a whole variety of topics and grants that are out there. There's ones for events, especially after COVID, trying to stimulate the economy. There's grants to support community groups in Ballarat here. This one in the middle here, Small Business Specialist Advice Pathways Program, was to work with a chartered accountant to improve your financial capability. It was launched on the 29th of August. It said it would close a month later on the 30th of September, or until the allocated funds, there was enough applications to match the funds. That closed within 5 days. So my clients got onto that, applied. It's a pretty easy application, and they've just found out this week that they were all successful. So now they're working with me to improve their financial capability, better understand their numbers in their business. But an example that they go quickly, that was even shorter than normal, and you need to be in the know to apply quickly. There's also some private ones as well. A lot of organisations now are using grants to as a way of sponsorship, to be involved in community projects or events, and making sure that projects are getting off the ground and providing that support. So And then there's ones at the moment here in Australia for wage subsidies to try and encourage more people into the workforce. There's some here for CCTV, for small business, for protection and security. There's been some ventilation ones by air purifiers to improve the air quality and ventilation of offices and workplaces, and Indigenous jobs as well. And this Safe Work Small Business rebate was if you watched a health and safety webinar, you got $1,000 towards your health and safety expenses for the year. So, you can see that there are a whole range of grants out there. If you look on the grants directories, they'll say, there's 1,500 grants available right now here in Australia. But that doesn't mean to say that you're eligible for every single one. So you do have to sift through them all to work out whether you're eligible. But I'm going to talk about that soon and how you can become more efficient about finding grants. So what's next? So I've taken you through my proven process of how I work with my clients. And now I'm going to talk a bit about how you can work with me to be successful in getting grant applications and getting funding for your organisation. So I've created this year my Grants Club VIP membership for businesses to come into this that just don't have time to look for grants. They don't know where to look. They just aren't looking. It all becomes too hard. It's all a bit of a minefield. You might be signed up to the grants directories, but you've still got to sift through those emails. You might get an email that has 10 grants listed for a particular topic or industry, or your alerts, but you've still got to be able to read through them and see whether you're eligible and whether it works for your business. So in my grants membership, that's what we do for you. We do all the hard work and we search for those suitable grants for you. We then match you with those grants and we'll send you an email saying, hey, look, we've found this grant, pretty sure you're eligible, and then invite you to have a chat with me to work out next steps, whether you want me to help you write it, whether you want to write it yourself, or whether we want to do it together as part of a review and go from there. We will share our proven process in depth. So there's masterclasses and there's one coming up in November. It's all part of the membership so that you can choose whether you want to learn those skills yourself and write them yourself, or whether you want to outsource that to me and I can write it for you for an additional fee. We also provide you with those special discounts. So if you're in the membership at the moment, you'll get 20% off any grant writing services when you engage me to write it for you. And, I'm totally fine with writing the first one for you and then you learning the process and doing the rest for you. That's absolutely fine. So, offering all those options depending on where you're at with your business, what staff you've got, what time and resources you've got, and the skills that you've got as well. And we can assist you and your business to get grant ready. So some of my members currently don't have business plans. So we're working with them to create those business plans and those growth plans to work out, one, what their projects could be if there was a grant or when there's a grant, but also making sure that when a grant does come out, we're ready to attach that business plan and good to go. So there's a 12-month calendar with scheduled events, so quarterly masterclasses, and there's one coming up in November, which is the enhanced version of this webinar where we go into greater detail on how to write them, the do's and don'ts, what I've seen. We'll use real life examples. We'll go through ones that have been successful, ones that haven't been successful in terms of what could we do better, and the feedback that we've received. There will be signature programs offered exclusively to members of the Grants Club as well around strategy, growing your business, and how you can improve those things. There's a private Facebook group for learning and asking questions, and basically you've got access to me to ask questions. If you find the grants yourself, then there's a big discount for me to then write the grant application. I'm not pretending to be Superwoman and find every single grant out there. There might be a few that I miss, but that's the incentive for you guys to look as well. And you'll get a personalized strategy call where once you've filled out the membership form, we'll go through that and really work out what kind of areas could we be looking for grants in your business and how could we shape that to be successful. So that I really love this membership. I love the members that are in there at the moment, and can't wait to invite more to be part of it, to learn, to be in the know about the Australian grants, and to be thinking of those opportunities of how they can utilise those grants in their business. So summary of what's included: a 12-month membership, a one-on-one strategy call with me, in the private Facebook group where I will share grants, tips, information, and you'll also be in there with like-minded businesses that are in that growth phase as well. Access to VIP resources, and the quarterly masterclasses are completely included in the membership as well. So this is a total value of more than $5,000 when you add it all up all individually, and if you were to work with me individually. But I do offer this for $1,650. So it's basically worked on the basis of $30 a week, the equivalent of 1 hour a week if you're paying a staff member that's not looking for grants for us to do that for you. So I'll just quickly find the link. I'll just pop that into the chat. If somebody can just double check that that link is working, that's a link to my website to find out all the information about the membership. And I also offer a money back guarantee. So if at the end of the 12 months, we haven't been able to match you with grants that you're eligible for, then you'll get your money back. So it's a no risk to you. I, again, don't have a crystal ball in terms of knowing what grants are going to come out. Even if they came out last year, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to come out this year. We've got changing governments and all that kind of stuff going on. But I'm pretty confident to date, once I've gone and looked for the grant specifically for my members that have joined the membership, we've matched them with the grant. So that's been really exciting. And then we've made those applications and we're waiting for them to find out. So that, I'm that confident that we will match you with grants, that we're completely offering a money back guarantee. If at the end of the 12 months, we haven't matched you with a grant, then you'll get your money back. So as I said, it's $1,650 or 4 monthly payments of $497. So that is based on paying one staff member for an hour a week to be looking for grants that so many businesses don't have time, they're too busy, they don't know where to start looking. Leave that up to us and we can go forward. As I mentioned, I've also got the masterclass that's included in the membership, but also open to the public. So how to write effective grant applications. This is for anyone that wants to learn more about how to really do it. We'll go through the real life examples. We'll go through the do's and don'ts. We'll go through more in depth about how that can help your organization. I've just popped the link in the chat for that to sign up. The cool thing about this is I'm offering this, it's online. I'm offering this for 1 or 2 people from an organization can attend for 1 ticket. So I'm all about people learning together, and especially for committees and even business owners. If you've got 2 of you that have got the knowledge, you can bounce off each other and work through it together if that's what you choose to do. But I'm really passionate about people learning together. And that's why I offer each ticket allows for 1 or 2, or up to 2 people from the same organisation to attend that training. So that's on Thursday, the 24th of November, from 10 till 3 Australian time as well. So the link is in the chat for that if you're interested. And again, remember, the recording will be sent out with all the links as well if you've missed any today. So if you're not sure where your business sits, whether grants are right for you, or you want to know more, you can book in a chat with me. I have got some time set aside for this afternoon to book in a 15-minute chat. Again, I'll pop the link in the chat, but for some reason, it's not allowing me to actually, if someone could click on this and see whether it's bringing up this afternoon's availability. I don't think it is. But I do have a couple of hours free straight after this. So if you do want to chat when we've finished, please stay on the line and we will manually book it in and we'll go from there. So happy to chat to anyone about what might be best for you, your organization, whether the membership is only for Australia at the moment, unfortunately. So it's not showing up for today. So if you do want to have a chat with me this afternoon, please stay on the line, and we will book that in after this, because I don't know what's going on. So just run through a quick couple of questions that always come up. Can we help writing with grants? Absolutely. So when we find you the grants, we'll help you write them. I don't have a business plan. Can you write one for me? Yes. Just like writing grant applications, I love writing business plans. I know there's not many people out there like me, but this is how I've turned it into a business. What's my success rate? As I said, 85%, but 100% this year. So I'm pretty proud of that. How do I know what I need a grant for? It depends. It depends what's in your strategy, depends what organization, depends what you need. So, I would love to see you all in my membership. Actually, I've just realized I also have a free Facebook group that I will put the link into the email after this as well, that you can join. I share my tips in there as well, and that's just a free grants. So that's not just grants, that's the efficient community that I will send through to you. And as we said earlier, nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity, especially if you don't know what the opportunity is that you've missed. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you've learned something and you can take it away to your organisation, share with others, get that funding. And if you do want to have a chat this afternoon, stay on the line now. I'll just get to you in a moment. I'm trying to turn the record off and it's not working.